Coming live from the studio, this is All Sports with Gerardo. Thank you for watching another episode of All Sports. This is your host, Gerardo. So today I'm going to talk about baseball and give you an update of every division in both the American League and the National League. Then I'm going to talk about the two altercations that happened in baseball this week. Since it was an interesting week in baseball, there was an altercation between Yasiel Puig and Nick Hundley, and another altercation between Jose Urena and Ronald Acuna, so I'm going to get into those two altercations. Then I'm going to talk to you guys about the first week of preseason football, and then tell you guys who got inducted into this year's class of 2018 into the NFL Hall of Fame. And then I'm going to talk to you guys about the NBA, and then the second week of preseason football. So let's begin with baseball. Right now I'm going to tell you about every division in both the American League and the National League and give you the current standings. So to start off with the American League East, the Boston Red Sox are leading this division at 87 games. They've gained the lead over the last few weeks over the New York Yankees, so the Red Sox have a 10.5 game lead. In the American League Central, the Cleveland Indians are leading this division at 70 games. They have a 12 game lead over every other team in this division. In the American League West, the Houston Astros are leading this division at 74 games, but don't count out the Oakland Athletics or the Seattle Mariners. The Athletics are only 1 game back. The Seattle Mariners are 4.5 games back. The Athletics have been playing really good baseball the last month. The Mariners are playing good baseball as well, so there's a chance that the Athletics or the Mariners could catch the Astros in this division. In the National League East, the Atlanta Braves are leading this division at 68 games. But the Philadelphia Phillies are only half a game back. And don't count out the Washington Nationals quite yet, even though they got a long shot. They are sitting 7 games back. In the National League Central, the Chicago Cubs are leading this division at 71 games. And the Milwaukee Brewers are 4.5 games back. So these last few weeks, the Cubs were able to gain a lead over the Brewers. For most of the year, the Brewers have been leading this division, but the Cubs have been playing better baseball lately. In the National League West, my favorite division and the most competitive, the Arizona Diamondbacks are leading this division at 68 games. But the Colorado Rockies are only 1.5 games back, and the Los Angeles Dodgers are 2 games back. Just like last year, this is a 3-team race. This is the most competitive division, and it's a very exciting division. I can't wait and see what happens in this division. It's going to come down to the end of the baseball season, but whoever plays better baseball is going to be the team that wins this division. Looking at the American League wildcard right now, the New York Yankees have the first spot. They do have a lead over the Oakland Athletics and the Seattle Mariners. Right now, the Oakland Athletics are leading the second spot for the wild card, but the Seattle Mariners are not too far back, so don't count out the Mariners out quite yet. Looking at the National League wild card, this is very competitive. The National League, it's going to come down to the end of the baseball season because there's a 2 to 3 team race in every division in the National League. Then depending on who wins their division, the teams that did not win their division, they're going to be fighting for the 2 wildcard spots. So I can't really tell you who's going to be fighting for a wildcard spot because it's going to come down to who wins their division. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens here. But I will say the National League wild card is going to be very competitive. There's going to be like 4 to 6 teams fighting for 2 wild card spots. So I can't wait and see what happens. It's a very good time of year. Baseball season is going to be coming to an end in a month and a half. But this is the most exciting time of the baseball season because you get to see who's really a good team and who can win baseball games when it counts. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in baseball. Now, this past week in baseball was very interesting. We had 2 altercations, and since these are not just any altercations, they're actually division teams, they're rivalry teams, so there's always a rivalry when it's a division team. And to start off, we had Yasiel Puig and Nick Hundley get into an altercation. So what happened was Yasiel Puig fouled the ball and he grabbed his bat, and Nick Hundley started telling him something, and Yasiel Puig turned around and told him something back, and then Yasiel Puig pushed Nick Hundley, and the benches cleared both the San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers. And there's always been a rivalry between the San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers since they're both in the same division. So it's always competitive every time the Giants and the Dodgers play each other. And after that altercation, baseball had to do something about it. So both Yasiel Puig and Nick Hundley got fined for their actions. But since Yasiel Puig hit Nick Hundley first, he got suspended 2 games. And then moving on now, there was another altercation, and this was with the Miami Marlins and the Atlanta Braves. So since the Marlins and the Braves are in the same division as well, it's very competitive and it's a rival as well. And this altercation was between Jose Urena and Ronald Acuna. So it was the beginning of the game, and Jose Urena was pitching for the Miami Marlins and Ronald Acuna was batting for the Atlanta Braves, and Jose Urena lands up hitting Ronald Acuna in the arm, and there was a little altercation, and then the benches cleared. So they landed up suspending Jose Urena for 6 games for his actions of hitting Ronald Acuna in the game. And since baseball did something about it, and there was an altercation between the Miami Marlins and the Atlanta Braves, depending on what happens now, since the Marlins and the Braves play each other again next week and later on in the season, there could be another altercation between the 2 teams. And since the Marlins pitcher hit one of the really good Braves hitters, now a Braves pitcher could hit one of the really good Marlins hitters. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but because the Marlins did something to the Braves are going to want to retaliate and do something back to the Marlins. So we're going to have to wait and see if something happens again next week. Hopefully not, but it doesn't look like it was an accident. It looks like it was intentional. So hopefully nothing happens again. Moving on now to football. The first week of preseason football passed, and so did the Hall of Fame game and the Hall of Fame induction. So to start off, I'm going to tell you guys about the NFL Hall of Fame. So this year's class of 2018 inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame included contributor Bobby Burford, linebacker Robert Brizzo, safety Brian Dawkins, guard Jerry Kramer, linebacker Ray Lewis, wide receiver Randy Moss, wide receiver Terrell Owens, and linebacker Brian Urlacher. So congrats to this year's class of 2018 NFL Hall of Fame inductees. These contributors and players deserve to be inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. They definitely deserve it. Every contributor or player that has their name listed on the NFL Hall of Fame ballot deserves to be inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. There's a reason why their name's on the ballot. A lot of players are definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's other contributors or players that their name gets on the ballot, but it takes them a few years to get inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. But once they do, they definitely deserve to be in there. So the way the NFL Hall of Fame works is once you retire as a player, a coach, an owner, or a contributor, you have to wait 5 years, and then once those 5 years pass, then your name can be listed on the ballot. And there's definitely players that you know are first ballot Hall of Famers, and they get in right away once those 5 years pass. But there's other players where it takes them more than 5 years or a few more years to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. But once they do, it's definitely worth the wait that they had to wait to get inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. So the NFL Hall of Fame is located in Canton, Ohio. One thing I can recommend is if you have not been to the NFL Hall of Fame, I highly recommend it. It's definitely worth seeing if you're a football fan. So when you do go out to the NFL Hall of Fame in August, the NFL season kicks off in Canton, Ohio. They do the NFL Hall of Fame induction for the class that's getting inducted that year. And then there's also the first football game. It's the Hall of Fame game. Every year, the two teams that play in this preseason game to start off the NFL season change. So this year, the Chicago Bears and the Baltimore Ravens played each other, and the final score was the Ravens won 16-17. And now, looking back at the first week of preseason football, I'm going to tell you about every team that played each other and tell you the final score of all these games. So to start off, the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants played each other. The final score was the Browns won 20-10. The Carolina Panthers and the Buffalo Bills played each other. The final score was the Panthers won 28-23. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles played each other. The final score was the Steelers won 31-14. The New Orleans Saints and the Jacksonville Jaguars played each other. The final score was the Saints won 24-20. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Miami Dolphins played each other. The final score was the Buccaneers won 26-24. The Washington Redskins and the New England Patriots played each other. The final score was the Patriots won 26-17. The Los Angeles Rams and the Baltimore Ravens played each other. The final score was the Ravens won 33-7. The Tennessee Titans and the Green Bay Packers played each other. The final score was the Packers won 31-17. The Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs played each other. The final score was the Texans won 17-10. The Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers played each other. The final score was the 49ers won 24-21. The Indianapolis Colts and the Seattle Seahawks played each other. The final score was the Colts won 19-17. The Atlanta Falcons and the New York Jets played each other. The final score was the Jets won 17-0. The Detroit Lions and the Oakland Raiders played each other. The final score was the Raiders won 16-10. The Minnesota Vikings and the Denver Broncos played each other. The final score was the Vikings won 42-28. The Los Angeles Chargers and the Arizona Cardinals played each other. The final score was the Cardinals won 24-17. So that's all the games and your final scores for the first week of preseason football. So the first week of preseason football was great. The starters did not play that long this week, only 2 series. But we were able to have the chance of seeing all the new rookies play. To look back at the rookies this week, all the quarterbacks drafted in the first round looked great this week. Especially Baker Mayfield. He had a great game. He did really great. The other quarterbacks, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson, they all looked great as well. And so did some of the other rookies. So the second week of preseason football, and especially the third week of preseason football, the starters will be able to play more. So I can't wait and see how the starters play. I want to see more of the starters as well. Especially all the new quarterbacks on the different teams that they're on now. Like Case Keenum, Kirk Cousins, and some of the other quarterbacks. So I can't wait for this second week of preseason football. Now looking ahead to the second week of preseason football, I'm going to tell you about every team that plays each other. So to start off the second week of preseason football, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Minnesota Vikings, the Philadelphia Eagles versus the New England Patriots, the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Green Bay Packers, the New York Jets versus the Washington Redskins, the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Atlanta Falcons, the New York Giants versus the Detroit Lions, the Buffalo Bills versus the Cleveland Browns, the Miami Dolphins versus the Carolina Panthers, the Arizona Cardinals versus the New Orleans Saints, the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Minnesota Vikings, the Oakland Raiders versus the Los Angeles Rams, the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Dallas Cowboys, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Tennessee Titans, the San Francisco 49ers versus the Houston Texans, the Chicago Bears versus the Denver Broncos, the Seattle Seahawks versus the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Baltimore Ravens versus the Indianapolis Colts. That's all the games and all the teams that are going to play each other in the second week of preseason football. Moving on now to the NBA. So now that we're in August, every NBA team released their upcoming schedule for this season, and almost every team now is selling single game tickets to every game. So I hope that you guys check out your favorite team's NBA schedule, buy tickets to the games you want to see, go see your favorite NBA team play. I can't wait for the upcoming NBA season. It's definitely going to be different and interesting. The Western Conference is going to be very competitive, and so is the Eastern Conference. I can't wait to see how all the NBA teams play, especially the teams in the Western Conference. Can't wait to see how the Golden State Warriors play and LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. So even though the NBA season's still 2 months away, I can't wait for the upcoming season. So make sure that you go out and see some basketball games. And moving on now to next week, I'm going to talk about the second week of preseason football. I'll tell you about the final scores of every game. And then I'm going to get into the third week of preseason football. And I'm going to give you an update of every division in both the American League and the National League in baseball. And then whatever news comes up between now and then, if there's anything new, especially the altercations that happen with the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Francisco Giants and the Miami Marlins and the Atlanta Braves. If anything new pops up there, I'll tell you about that. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that watches every episode of All Sports. Until next time, this is Gerardo.